All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Hotfix. My name is Knox, and this is the third week of SRL Seasons 2. The game everybody's going to be playing this week is Ninja 5 for the GBA. It's a cute little platformer. I would like to introduce the commentators this week. Joining me, we have Boney.
Hey. Hi, Knox.
Hey. And we have Blecky, the Ninja 5 master.
Hello, Knox. Hello, Boney.
Hey.
What's up? How's it going?
So, this game is very hard. It took me a couple hours to play through normal mode. What did you even do to learn this, Blecky?
Man, I love this game so much. So really, the first time I'd ever touched it was in a blind race. And then I just wanted to, and that was in easy mode, which is significantly easier than normal mode. Everyone's going to be playing in normal mode today. And then I just wanted to play more of it. So I wound up taking on normal mode. And then I just loved it more and more. And it's just kind of one of those cases of you end up playing it so much that you just kind of, the controls just end up making sense to you. So really, to answer your question, I mean, I just played it a lot. I looked at what the task could do, but naturally in a game, I mean, you'll quickly see just how really involved the controls are and fast moving it is. It's going to be hard to match the tool-assisted run of a game like this. So I did have to make my own strategies, but yeah, it's a really fast run. I'm so happy to see it because while I do technically hold the record, there's a lot of improvement to be had there, and I hope that because it was chosen for one of the season games, people that wound up playing it end up trying to take down my run. It's a really good game.
It is very fun from what I played. It's just, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to go fast in.
Yeah, really, I mean, the controls, there's so many different options you have. We actually have a video prepared for you if we want to bring that up. But the idea in this game is, so here we are just like showing off some of the earlier controls. There's a bunch of different things you can do. You have a sword, you have a ninja stars, you have, and you're going to be doing a lot of grappling. It's a very grappling based game. But when you're fighting enemies, you're mostly going to be using those ninja stars and your grappling hook. Now, if we head to the right in a minute here, you'll kind of see just how much, just how quickly kind of you have to move around in this game. You'll see every enemy has, I think, usually at least 3 health. Each ninja star does 1 damage. And you can actually, some enemies drop these lightning bolts, which power up your weapon. So that you can, instead of throwing ninja stars, you end up throwing fireballs, and then later you can throw lasers. You can kind of see some grappling around there as well. And as we get into the later levels, you'll see that just the grappling moves so quickly. And you just have to react so quickly in order to get where you're going as quickly as possible. You can also actually slide around in this game. That's another one of the movement options. And so to progress this game, the idea is that you need to make it to the red door and rescue all hostages in the stage. But throughout the stage, there is going to be a series of keys. To get to the red door, you need to find the red key, but maybe the red key is hidden behind a yellow door, which you need the yellow key for, etc., etc. So you'll just kind of need to be cruising through the level, picking up keys as you go, and just sort of kind of trying to rescue hostages and get these keys on your way. So you can see here that just in our demo, stage 1 is complete, and we will see a bit more in stage 2. The first area is just a little bit more open. You have a few different options as far as attacking goes. You can, I mean, just like sword-wise, you can swipe your sword in midair, which does a bit more damage. You can, and then you can just use it on the ground. You won't usually be using it on the ground, though. So here we see an example of a hostage. The way it works is actually the enemies are holding the hostages in front of them. So you need to try to time it and time your enemy hits so that you actually rescue the hostage. You don't actually have to rescue the hostage. You can see there that we did save the hostage. You can still kind of get credit. So I think here we're going to be actually unfortunately killing the hostage. And what happens is that you lose half of your health on normal mode. So if we kill this hostage, we end up losing a lot of health and game overing on that screen. Fortunately, game overs in this game aren't too bad. And you just start the stage over. Now, one thing I want to talk about, if you use your sword attack in midair and then land after it, you can kind of see that we just land and there's a brief period of time where we can't move. It's actually 14 frames. However, if we use our grappling hook just before we land, it actually cancels that out entirely. So you don't suffer from that delay. And given how many times you'll be grappling, you'll be doing a midair swipe throughout this game, that's going to save you a lot of time. Now, given the format of season 2, people only had about a week to actually kind of play this game and study it. So, given how difficult this game is, they're going to have made a lot of sacrifices and compromises in terms of what they learned and what they didn't. So it's going to be really interesting to see kind of what they were able to come up with, how often they're going to be grapple canceling, or if they just could not fit it into their practice. The last thing I guess we can cover is that at the top of the screen, you can see this green bar. That's actually your special meter, which fills up mostly from defeating enemies. And if it fills up all the way, you can push the A and B buttons together to fill it up all the way. You can also collect power-ups, which fill it up all the way. You can see it's flashing now. And if you use your special, then you'll just kind of clear all the enemies on the screen. It's also quite useful for bosses as well. However, if you have only a partially filled meter, then what happens is you don't do that special attack at all, and you just end up using it for invulnerability, and the special bar slowly drains as that invulnerability continues. That's really kind of the basics of the game. I hope that it's clear enough to you. We are going to be watching a full normal run, so you'll be seeing this a lot more as we see the runners go through. But yeah, I mean, Boney Knox, I mean, I know that we kind of cruised through that, but does that mostly make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, yeah, there's just so much to this game, and kind of as you said, it's hard to even predict what people implement into the run, whether they'll even be concerned with grapple canceling or not. Just because the main concern with these newer players is just trying to avoid dying and even getting hit, so they don't downgrade their weapon upgrade.
Right.
Because everything just costs so much time. And just for comparison, I mean, you have like a 22-minute time, I believe.
Yeah.
And
it's a hard game. 22-minute time is pretty good. Like I said, there is still a bit you can improve upon. But I know that a lot of people in this game, or people in this that are going to be in this race, I think even approaching a 30-minute time, they would be ecstatic with. So it's going to be really exciting to see kind of how their run goes.
Yeah, I think most of our top players in this week are in like the mid to high 30s. So clearly this game is very difficult to run based on that. And again, people are just trying to avoid getting hit. I think that's their main concern. So
the task itself is something around 17 minutes. That thing is incredible to watch. That was actually my first exposure to this game.
That's fast.
Yeah.
That is fast.
And just from that task, I could kind of see how quickly it would move.
The one thing I am very interested in seeing some of the runners today is I noticed when I watched through your run, I noticed that you had a lot of special meter, like, conserving it for, like, certain rooms that are just, like, awful to go through. I'm interested to see if people choose to do that for different rooms other than what you routed.
Yeah, routing in this game is really important as well, because given that, like, you'd think that, this is just a simple, like, heavy grappling hook, difficult platformer, but there's quite a bit of routing. You need to keep in mind so each world has 3 stages followed by a boss, except for the penultimate world. Excuse me. And between stages of a world, you carry over your health with some refills in between, and you also carry over your power-up level and your special meter. So it's really, really important to be able to just kind of, oh, actually, yeah, you do carry over your special meter. So it's really important routing between those stages and just making sure that you have the power-up, the health, the special meter that you want for each given stage is very difficult. And taking a hit, so I didn't mention this, but the special meter, having that level 3 special is so beneficial, especially on some of the bosses. And taking a hit actually brings you down your power level by 1. You're actually going to see in our video here, we were at level 2, which is the pink ninja. We got hit, and then we went down to level 1. And that can be a pretty big time loss based on where you are in the game. But yeah, as far as routing goes, from keeping in mind all those different facets of what you need to make sure to maintain, it's really, really difficult. I think, I mean, my run was 5 years ago, but I think I mostly modeled it based on the tasks, but then made some changes basically just to make it more kind of real-time viable. But yeah, I mean, you really want to be minimizing all the hits you take, both to preserve your health and to preserve your power-up meter. You want to be using, because like you said, as far as that special meter goes, for the most part, the fully powered meter doesn't usually save time, because while it's really good for damage, most enemies just die immediately. And if you want to be fighting them, it's usually either to rescue a hostage or to pick up a key that they will drop. And I mean, if it's a key that they will drop, you need to walk over to them anyway. So you're probably going to be easily defeating them anyway. But really, the main times it comes in handy is for a small room that has, it's kind of like, if you imagine just like a maze of a room, for example, and there are hostages strewn about the room, and you just need to defeat the enemies to rescue all those hostages. If you use your fully powered special, it doesn't discriminate on where the walls are. It'll just kind of rescue all the hostages. So that's really where the specials come in handy. And you're going to be actually seeing that pretty early on. There are only really like maybe 2 or 3 rooms where that's useful. And then it can also be useful for bosses just because it does so much damage so quickly. But yeah, I mean, as this run happens, just kind of keep in mind, just be watchful of that special meter in the upper left, as well as the health meter. The health meter is actually not currently on screen right now. It's an orange meter, but once we get the race going, I mean, you'll see that health meter is there. And you're also, so in the lower left, as far as kind of the user kind of HUD goes, you can see in the lower left what your power meter is. You can see in the upper left what your special meter is. Usually above that, there will be health as well. And then otherwise, it's just, so there's the health meter. Yeah,
we found it.
We found the health meter. So that's the orange health meter. Points actually don't usually matter, but every, I think, I don't know, 100,000 points, I think, you get a full health refill, I believe, which if you're really, really going into the routing can, and route all your different enemy kills, etc., can really bail you out when you need it. I don't think I did that, so that could be one possible improvement to my run, is taking more damage and then just using the health refill from a points boost to refill that damage. But again, you got to be careful with your damage abuse, just because it is going to take your power levels away.
There's just so much thought to put into this game. Like it's crazy how it's not only just extremely hard, but there are just so many things to keep in mind just for management purposes. I can't even imagine running or rooting this game.
There are actually different ways you can kind of play it safe as well. So that's one more beautiful thing that I love about this game, is that you can make it as difficult for yourself as you want. There are health refills throughout the level. You can take a bit of extra time to take. You can defeat additional enemies for more power-up refill. You can not go totally insane with your grapple mechanics and just kind of take it a bit safe. That is definitely where I saw, as I was watching people practice this game, I was seeing them really kind of, the main place that they were safing it out was just taking the grappling a lot slower. And I could see why that would be the case. I mean, after you've played it for a week or so, you'll probably want to start pushing yourself and really trying to speed up your grappling, because that's where a lot of the time save comes from. But otherwise, I could see why you would just want to take it slow, beat the levels, because, I mean, things do a lot of damage in this game.
Yeah, I do hope we see some fast strats, but obviously it'll be understandable if we don't, because, I don't know, I think we'll see a lot of different play styles in this game. People just being really aggressive because they just really want to go fast because it feels so good, or vice versa.
Yeah.
All right. So if you don't have anything else regarding the game to say before the pre-show, I think we can wrap up pretty soon here before the race begins. I do want to just go over what Season 2 is for those who may be new. This is the third of 9 weeks of the main phase of our season. And the way this works is we're just starting a week off by revealing a game and a goal, and we're giving all players who are interested in the game about 1 week to learn and practice the game as well as they possibly can and prepare for the races, which will occur the following weekend. So we are at that race phase of the week right now. People have grinded this game out for about a week and are hopping in the race, trying to do their best. And we're pretty much just going to repeat that process every single week. At the end of the stream, we will reveal the 4th game of the season and just keep going until we have our top 16 for the bracket phase. So, yep, this is the 3rd week. We are at Ninja 5-0. You'll be watching that game coming up very soon. Previous weeks included Super Mario Bros. 1 and Quake 2. And right now we're looking at an image of the standings. So obviously it's not very complete, this is only based on 2 races, but you can kind of get a feel for who's doing well in the season right now. You see Ramses 88 on top right now with the highest score. He actually, I think he finished mid and around the middle of the pack in the Mario 1 race, and he got 6th in the Quake 2 race, so he's doing pretty good right now. And just to kind of explain what's going on in this image, because it may be a bit confusing, the total is rather clear. That just sums up the points that they get from each race. The deducted column, so at the end of the main season, we're essentially just going to drop every player's worst 2 scores. We don't want to punish them for missing a week or 2, so that's kind of how that works. Considering that we are only 2 weeks in, when we drop their 2 worst scores, that means we just drop the only 2 scores they have. So that's why everyone has a 0 in that column. Not very relevant right now, but obviously it'll be more relevant later in the season. And those 2 gray scores on the right are just the points they got from each of the first 2 races. So this leaderboard will be a lot more intense and make more sense as we get later in the season, but right now it's just kind of a representation for how it'll look later on when we add more games. So I think on that note, we are pretty good for the season explanation. Do you have any closing thoughts on what to expect in the race, either Knox or Blecky? It's hard to say.
Yes, so I would say just keep, just watch the movement in general. It's kind of a game that speaks for itself. We'll be there to walk you through what's happening in each of the worlds. You really only saw kind of 1 1/3 stages in that intro video. But it's really going to be a game that speaks for itself. And I think as you watch it, you'll see just how difficult it is from just how fast moving it is.
Cool. How you feeling, Knox?
Feeling good. This game is so fun.
I agree. I think Blecky agrees too.
Yeah, I think Blecky does agree. So I guess if we don't have anything else to add for the moment, no?
I think we're set.
I'm all set as well.
Good? All right, I think that means we're going to head out for a few minutes here, get set up for the race,
Yep.
and then we will be back when the race starts.
Yep, give us about 10 minutes and we'll be going with some Ninja 5.0 action. People are going to be dying. It's going to be great.
So sick.
All right, see you in a bit. All right. I think we are about ready to go. Let's get into it.
I
Got about
cannot
20
wait to
people in this
see.
race. Yeah.
Good luck.
All right, here we go. Ninja 5-0. So we have 3 stages to pick from at the start. They're going to hop right into bank, I think, because that's kind of the intro stage.
Yeah, and right into it. I mean,
it's
it's gonna be real crazy getting right into it. So this stage actually has no hostages. It's straight just getting the red key and leaving. Every stage after this just about will have hostages. So you can kind of see that there was a level 2 power up that Bro Edgeman grabbed. It's especially kind of so the power ups are so important in this game. In the level 1 power up does just 1 damage per shuriken. Level 2 power up does 2 damage per fireball. You throw 3 of them, and then the level 3 power up does 6 damage. So it's a huge difference in between. And like we said in the intro, just losing that makes such a big difference. So it looks like some players here might just be forgetting about the power up altogether, and just actually Bro Edgeman just takes 2 hits immediately and just drops from 3 power to 1. So he just kind of completely drops it. And I mean, you never know kind of what they have prepared, but yeah. So I hope that Bro Edgeman takes an early death. He tried to copy the strategy from the video we showed you guys early on. So you can see just how kind of important accurate grappling is. Right now, Bro Edgeman unfortunately took a death in 1-2. Alpha 5 and St. Joe just starting off 1-3. And then Pika Pals is using his special meter there to rescue a hostage in 1-3. So Pika Pals is actually in the lead right now. You can see in the lower right there, he still has 5 hostages to rescue. He's doing a really solid job so far. He has maintained his level 3 power for quite a while now, and is just kind of cruising through this game, rescuing hostages. Oh, and then he makes a really tight jump over bullets.
Yeah, he destroyed that rune. Jeez.
Yeah, really quick. Bullets do a pretty small amount of damage, but any type of damage will make you lose that power level. So it may seem to you like the routing is a little bit kind of unoptimized. Like, why did he go all the way to the right of that level just to go all the way back to the left? He actually some of the hostages that he's in the room where he's in right now. There are hostages in this room, and to get into this room, Pika Pals needed the yellow key. And to do that, the yellow key is located in fixed position on the right side of the map. So Pika Pals is doing a really good job here. He's about to finish up 1-3. He's rescued all hostages. Oh, he does take a big hit. That's not a huge deal, honestly, heading into this World 1 boss. The World 1 boss is just kind of, it's this samurai. You just want to take him out as fast as possible. You can just kind of do sword hits. Ideally, you want to just throw a bunch of fireballs at him. Let's see how he does here. It looks like he's trying to stay pretty far away. Again, as long as all 3 fireballs hit, it actually does the 6 damage that the level 3 power-up normally would anyway. He did a pretty good job there. The boss was able to get a brief period of invulnerability by just kind of spinning his side like that. But yeah, he still did really well. St. Joe actually is doing. He came into this boss with level 3 power up. He's going to get a much faster boss fight, I think, because he came in with level 3, and also he used his invulnerability to keep getting hits in, rather than Pika Pals, who wound up using the full special meter attack. So now we're getting into both Pika Pals and St. Joe close behind are now in World 2. There are 5 worlds in this game. And World 2 it's probably one of the hardest, especially as people were learning this game. They were saying that World 2 compared to World 1, it's like the hardest world in the game compared to the easiest. So it's a huge step up. There are a lot of different reasons why. There are going to be a lot more ninjas which appear out of nowhere. Those ninjas are in fixed positions. You always know where they will be, but they can just suddenly kind of pop up on you and hit you and do a lot of damage. There's also going to be a lot of spikes. You can kind of see in the room Pika Pals is in right now that you need to dodge. Spikes do a whole ton of damage, so can really kind of just suddenly, if you make one false move, can just take so much damage out of you. And also just kind of, there are these flame cycles you need to meet. You can see on St. Joe's screen, there's these flamethrowers, Pika Pals as well. And while flame cycles are not luck reliant and actually come out at fixed positions, they still, if you make one, so they're timed based on when you came into the room. If you make any miscalculations at all when you came into the room, you can very just quickly accidentally run into a flame when you thought it would be coming out just a bit later and take a whole ton of damage and lose a power-up as well. Pika Pal's now in 2-2. Bro Edge Man close behind. I didn't see what happened to Alpha 5. Alpha 5 actually is one of the strongest runs in this game of these 4 runners. But he must have taken a death and I didn't catch it because he is actually now just finishing 1-3.
I think he took 2 deaths in that stage, which,
wow,
as you said, is really surprising because he actually submitted the best time of every single runner this week. He had a 35 something, so that's very surprising. This is a very volatile game, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when there are some attacks in this game that can take you out in just 2 hits, I mean, like your meter seems like it's gigantic, and if you take a hit, sometimes it seems like it barely takes any. But there are a lot of attacks in this game that do half of your entire health bar, so it can really just be easy. So Alpha 5 probably is a little bit disgruntled right now. We'll see what happens. Pika Pals and Bro Edge Man, I believe, are both in 2-2 still. And St. Joe, I think, is in 2-1 right now. World 2, it really just gets more difficult and more difficult. Actually, Pika Pals, let's see. I'll get a better reminder once he's out. Yeah, so I think Bro Edge Man, unless I'm crazy, Bro Edge Man is... Bro Edge Man and Pika Pals are both doing really well right now. Whatever. Yeah. So Pika Pals is now heading into 2-3, and he is in the lead. There are kind of 4 different quarters of this stage. It's actually my favorite stage in the game. Every room has something very unique about it, and it's very difficult. So Pika Pals, I mean, this room is full of flamethrowers. Again, you just need to make sure to not mess anything up, or else you take a risk taking a hit. He is using his invulnerability. One cool thing about the invulnerability in this game, again, as we mentioned before, you actually do not need you only need the slightest bit of your meter to get invulnerability out of your special meter. And what that means is if there's one very brief but dangerous part, you only need a small bit of your meter to be able to just briefly go invulnerable and then be able to get through it. So and that just means like killing an enemy or 2. So you might kill an enemy or 2 just to get a bit of special meter to kind of get that additional invulnerability. Bro Edge Man quickly navigating through this stage as well. Alpha 5 is now in 2-1. He just finished his 2-1 actually, heading into 2-2. And St. Joe is somewhere in the midst of 2-2. But Pika Pal is really having a really solid run right now. He does have level 3 power. So if he can, keeping that level 3 power all the way to the World 2 boss is tremendously helpful. It can really just save so much time because the World 2 boss there's a bit of luck to the World 2 boss. You'll see, I think...
Oh, that's so smart. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Pika couldn't position himself right there. He
yeah.
So he went through the door and went out, so he just automatically adjusted to the right horizontal position. That was smart.
Yeah. He needed to be able to just kind of climb up that narrow crevice, but he, like Boney said, he just couldn't position himself, so he just re-entered. Very nice. So Pika Pals is in the final stage of 2-3. He just collects the red key now, headed for that final door. Again, you just need to collect the red key and rescue all the hostages in order to beat a level. So the deal with the Pika Pal is heading into the World 2 boss now. The World 2 boss, like I mentioned, does have a lot of luck to it. He can bounce around a lot, but if you get solid luck, he just kind of bounces on top of you and just lets you use your invulnerability to just do a ton of damage. Let's see how Pika Pal takes him out. He does have the level 2 power-up, which is actually a huge, unfortunately, a big loss compared to the world to the level 3. So Pika Pal is going ahead and just using his sword a lot. He has bounced back down to the level 1 power. The thing about this boss is if you have... Oh, he's really low health right now, Pika Pal. He's probably going to safe it out with just sword hits. Let's see. Oh my god, that frog really wants him. That frog really wants his face. Okay, Pika Pal loses a bit of time, unfortunately, but is able to take it on without a death. Meanwhile, so he's heading into World 3. Bro Edge Man, I think, actually took a death. So St. Joe actually is now in 2nd place with Bro Edge Man in 3rd. Alpha 5 still finishing up 2-2. Pika Pals is now in World 3, which is kind of so World 2 was the warehouse, World 1 was the bank, World 3 is now the airport. World 3 is actually probably the second of the 5 worlds, probably the second easiest. There's just not quite as much instant, like, heavy damage stuff as there is in something like World 2 or World 4. It's also... So... There tends to be usually just kind of very enclosed quarters. As you look at the other 3 streams, it's just very tight quarters, very tight grappling. But in the airport, where Pika Pals is in right now, it tends to be a lot more open. So you have a lot more room for grappling. You have a lot more room for error. You don't usually need to make tight cycles that you'll see in World 2 and 4. Especially, I mean, the room Pika Pals is in right now is very open. So he can just kind of like cruise around, grapple around as much as he needs to. Oh, he misses that. Oh, what's he going to do here? Oh, he makes a big error there. He kills the enemy, but does not collect the key. And you need invulnerability to take the shortcut up to the key. So he's actually going to swing all the way across the room to get that red key. 3-1 is just about done, and he's going to be finishing it up. 3-2 is maybe a little bit more difficult than 3-1. But still really not that bad. World 2 is really where the difficulty is at. St. Joe, you can see right now, is now on the World 2 boss. I didn't get to see it too much, but I think that he was able to fare a lot better than Pika Pals did. Pika Pals had to slow it down quite a bit by using his shurikens, whereas St. Joe used his sword a lot more. Again, shurikens do 1 damage, where jumping sword attacks do 6 damage. So that can just be a lot quicker. I want to take a moment to talk about the different movement options in this game. So you do have your grappling hook. You do have the method of just walking straight ahead. You do have your grappling hook. And you'd think that the grappling hook is the fastest always, but it's actually not always the fastest. Only if you are doing very long grapples is it the fastest. And if you're doing medium grapples, it's a little faster than sliding as well. But if it's a very tiny quarters and you don't have much room to navigate, sliding, if possible, is actually more ideal than doing short grapples. So, and whereas walking tends to be walking is even faster than just short grapples. So if it's very tight quarters, you don't really want to be grappling all that much. But if you have tons of space, then you want to be grappling a lot. St. Joe here is able to grab the red key and not make that same mistake Pika Pals did. So he is going to be finishing up. I think that was a lot faster of a 3-1 for St. Joe. But overall, Pika Pals has not had any deaths, has not really lost his power-up when he's needed it. So overall, Pika Pals has had a really solid run so far. Really, I'd say the biggest mistake was just a very slow World 2 boss. Alpha 5 now heading into the World 2 boss with only 1 power but full health, so hopefully he's able to have an okay boss fight. Whereas Bro Edgeman is now in 3-1, just starting out 3-1. St. Joe is a little bit into 3-2, and then Pika Pals is towards the end of 3-2. Pika Pals is has rescued all hostages and now has the red key as well. So he's going to just be leaving that level. 3-3 is quite a bit different. I mentioned how in 3-1 and 3-2 you usually have a lot of space to be able to kind of navigate around with, but in 3-3 it takes place inside the airplane itself rather than the airport. So I don't know if you've ever been in an airplane, but usually there isn't much room for your grappling hook inside of an airplane. And so that continues to be the trend in Ninja 5.0 as well, very true to form. And just like in real life, there are a lot of ninjas and hostages in this airplane as well. So you can kind of see there isn't even much vertical scrolling in this, in any room in this stage, and he's going to just be sliding around a lot in order to move around as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, St. Joe, St. Joe, I got that mixed up. St. Joe is still in 3-2 as well, but he's going to be towards the end. There are other hazards in 3-3, the Pika Pal stage as well. There are these kind of lightning bolts, kind of lost, like broken circuits, I guess you could call them, in 3-3. And you just need to, they're on a cycle similar to the flamethrowers in World 2. They're on a cycle as soon as you enter the stage. So you're going to be knowing when they happen, but you still need to kind of make sure that you have enough time to slide through. Another cool thing about the slide is actually you're invulnerable while you're sliding. So as long as you know that you could get through an enemy or even any of those electrical circuits, as long as you can get through one with your full slide, then you don't have to worry about taking damage. It's kind of cool like that. So Pika Pals is towards the end of 3-3 now. He only has 4 hostages more to rescue, but soon he's going to be coming up on that World 3 boss, and we'll talk about him more as he approaches. Meanwhile, St. Joe finishing up 3-2, so Pika Pals kind of is maybe like half a stage or so ahead of in the lead right now. St. Joe just coming into 3-3. And Bro Edgeman and Alpha 5 somewhere in 3-2 right now. I think Alpha 5 is in 3-2 anyway. But yeah, so they're closely finishing up as well. So Pika Pal's finishing up 3-3, heading into the World 3 boss. The deal with this boss is he's the final boss of the game in like an earlier form. So he has 2 phases. Phase 1 is you just want to shoot him in the head. Having power level 3 is really helpful, and Pika Pals does have that. So he's going to shoot him in the head a few times, and then we're going to go into phase 2, which is just the dragon kind of floating around. Now, the fastest way to fight this dragon is just sorting him a lot. The thing is, there's this hostage. Oh, he takes a death. Ooh. The thing is, there's this hostage on the right side of the screen, just kind of cowering on the side of the boss fight, and he dies to a single sword swipe. So you need to stay away from him, and he also takes friendly fire. So you need to stay away from him, or else you will just need to redo the entire boss fight in one kind of thing. This is another case where every little bit of invulnerability is super helpful. So that time, Pika Pals is able to do it. Unfortunately, he had taken a death prior to that, but Pika Pals is able to take that boss out on his attempt 2. Now, he shouldn't get too happy with that, because World 4 is, in my mind, and from what I could tell, most in the eyes of most of the runners, the hardest world in the game.
Absolutely.
Tons of spikes. Yeah.
It is so hard.
Tons of spikes. There's not too much randomness to this game, but when enemies fire is actually, they're like flamethrowers or their laser attacks, there is a bit of randomness to that. before I go on about that, Pika is setting himself up for a sequence break here. Instead of going all the way around the entire stage, he's going to try to gain enough vertical velocity to get up that very, very narrow crevice. It saves about 10 seconds if you can get it right. So unfortunately, okay, Pika, oh, he had it and then he gave it up.
Maybe he just wanted to do it again.
Okay. He probably just barely lost more time than it would take to go all the way around. That's pretty precise. So he lost quite a bit of time there, but he did get it in the end. But yeah, I mean, between all the kind of semi-randomness of the enemy shots and the spikes and just things that deal heavy, heavy damage and precise invulnerability you need to be using, it's very difficult. That was a neat little move that Pika pulled off. So now Pika he took quite a bit of damage there, and he countered that by taking a bit of extra time to get some health bonuses. He is taking quite a bit of damage in this stage, but like I said, fortunately he's taking the extra time to make sure that he has enough health to continue. It's kind of funny. Vertical rooms in this game are very difficult to get used to. You can see that each one of those little pegs is a grappling point, but you need to kind of gain enough spin speed, I guess we'll call it, in order to gain a lot of vertical velocity and ascend quickly. Pika had a rough time with that. That's one of the more difficult things I would say. That's one of the more difficult things I would say is harder to master in this game, when given that you only have a week to play it. And it's just kind of the type of thing where if you just have enough time to play this game, like purposelessly, you just get in tune with the controls. Pika is on his if he takes a hit to anything, he is going to die and need to redo all of 4-1 again. Fortunately, he barely, like if he had taken that death, St. Joe would have been in the lead. Meanwhile, St. Joe actually getting that skip from before a lot quicker.
He actually went the normal way. He tried it once and he just gave up and said, let's do the intended route.
It felt like that room went a lot quicker than Pika, and I think that might have been why he just doesn't even go for the spin. St. Joe actually does now have quite a bit of a health deficit, and I think he's going to be getting these safety health as well. Just to catch you up to speed, Pika is in the lead, just kind of maybe a quarter of the way through 4-2 right now. St. Joe is not too far behind in 4-1, but yeah. And then Bro Edgeman and Alpha 5 Bro Edgeman is in third in the World 3 boss, and then Alpha 5 has still quite a bit of work to do in 3-3. So it's kind of like lower right, lower left, upper right, upper left is the order of placements right now. Pika is again in very, very precarious position. He has very low health, just about anything, maybe 2 hits of the like softest attack in the game would finish him, and just about any other attack would just one-shot him. He did, okay, so I think, I can't see his point value, but yeah, he just hit 300,000 points, which means that, I think if I can see correctly anyway, maybe I'm wrong there, but either way, he's full health again. So, yeah, so he's back at full health, and is not in too dangerous of a position. So it was because he actually got a multiple of 300,000 points, so he was able to get that full health bonus. Anywho, he's towards the end of 4-2. He's not in danger of dying. He is in danger of being at level 1 power, considering that he is at level 1 power right now. So he just needs to, if you can go into the World 4 boss, the World 4 boss, we're still stage away, but the World 4 boss is probably the biggest difference between having World 3 or level 3 power and level 2 power. It just makes like 10 seconds difference maybe. I think it was 12 actually when I timed it. But as we go through 4-3 on Pika screen, I know that these players, despite usually going through the game and being used to it with just level 1 power, I know that unanimously they wanted to get into the World 4 boss with level 3 power. So if he's able to do that, then he's going to be able to kind of have a pretty solid time save there. Again, St. Joe is finishing up 4-2. He just needs to rescue 2 more hostages, and then I think we are still in a place where Bro Edgeman is in 3rd and Alpha 5 is in 4th place. 4-3, which Pika Pals is in, is really, I think, one of the hardest stages in the game. Every single stage has just something, or every single room has something very dangerous about it. It is a pretty quick stage, but still very dangerous, and it's just covered in spikes, covered in just kind of these dangerous enemies that do a ton of damage, and it's just so important to be able to use your invulnerability at the right time so that you do not take damage. There are a lot of different enemies in this game. You've kind of seen a few different robot ninjas. A green one with a gun, a green one with a boomerang, and then a blue one, which, if he can get a sword swipe off, kind of summons spirits to attack you. And you need to be dealing. They have 18 health each, and you just need to be so 3 airborne sword hits take any one of them out. But oftentimes, you need to be very careful in how you're dealing with it. So I would say that this room Pika Pals is in right now is one of the scariest rooms in the game. At the top there are these 2 flamethrower enemies, and you never quite know when they're going to be shooting their flames. So Pika Pals, you can kind of see, I think he kind of tried to make sure that one enemy got his flame attack off, and then the other one as well. So he safes it out a bit there in order to make sure that he doesn't take any flame hits. Pika Pal's heading into the World 4 boss with power level 2. He wishes he was power level 3. Well, there's a kind of safer strat you can do with power level 2. I'm not sure how much time he had to get used to it. Well, I am sure, 1 week. But I'm not sure if he wound up taking the time. It looks like so the really good safe strat uses invulnerability. He's not quite doing that, but he does end up using that special meter ability. So he is really close to just finishing off the boss, really close to dying himself as well. So I have a feeling it looks like he might just really kind of safe it out here. If he takes 1 hit on those spikes, he's dead. But he was able to finish off the boss.
I think he damaged, I don't know what you call it. He took advantage of the damage from the bat so he could just kind of use his invulnerability to get right into the boss and kill it.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if that was intentional, but I think that's what happened, and it worked out.
St. Joe actually made up quite a bit of time on him. I didn't realize he was so close to the end of the level. He's also not safing out those flamethrower enemies. But we are not too far from the end of the game. World 5 is pretty short, and then there's 1 escape sequence after that. So I'm going to be watching Pika Pal's screen. This is a very, very short level. There are no hostages left. It's really just very tight platforming with things that do a lot of damage. Those lasers do, I think, maybe half your health. So he really wants to not be taking any damage, Pika Pal's here. And he's probably going to be, it's a very cycle-based level. So he's going to probably be waiting out a lot of the cycles to make sure that he does not take any damage. St. Joe is finishing off this World 4 boss. He's doing it pretty slowly. Usually I would have said that it seemed like he really wanted to kind of catch up to Pika Pals, but it looks like he just wants to make sure he gets this boss. Pika Pal's finishing up 5-1. It's very common to take a death in 5-1, but Pika Pals finishes it out. 5-2 is a little bit easier than 5-1, but we'll see how Pika Pals is able to do. It's still very common to take a death here. There are a lot of laser cycles. What's up?
We have some news.
Yeah.
One of our off-stream players, coincidentally, is leading the season right now. Ramses finished with a 27:48.
Wow, really solid run.
Yeah,
that's really good.
Really good.
That's really good.
Quote Ramses was not expecting sub 30 for race. So that was a really good run for Ramses by his standards as well, and for anyone's standards. So kudos to Ramses. Pika Pals is not soon behind. It's probable that he will get the 2nd place. We'll see here. He's finishing up 5-2 now. The thing about this 5-3 boss It's not, usually you won't die to the 5-3 boss. There isn't much risk of that, but it can take a lot longer based on how you deal with it. It's a very cycle-based boss, yet there is not much luck involved. It's really just kind of how you manipulate the boss and dealing. So every kind of damage, once he takes a certain amount of damage, he'll go up into the air, as you can see here, and just take the time to summon flame dragons. And if you can squeeze in enough hits before that happens, you can sort of skip cycles that way. But Pika Pals is not doing that too much. He is just taking his time and just making sure that he gets those accurate hits in. So a really, really good fight is a 3-cycle. In my record, I think I got a 4-cycle. Pika Pals right now, I think, is on... Maybe this is a... I think he's on the 3rd cycle right now so far. And it looks like he'll be suffering one more cycle. So he does get the 4th cycle, unless I missed one, which is really not all that bad. Unless... Okay, yeah. I think he's going to get the 4th cycle here. Okay, yeah, he gets the 4th cycle. All that's left for Pika Pals is the escape sequence, which is very short. It's kind of reminiscent of 5-2, but you're going up instead of down. And you've seen what kind of needing to go up in this game can be like, especially when there's lasers all over your face. So Pika Pals, I think this is going to be a really solid run for what he wanted to get, and probably St. Joe as well, as long as Pika Pals can do it. A really, really good escape sequence is 60 seconds on the top meter. I don't think we'll see that today, but just to give you kind of a good benchmark. This Pika Pals is heading up to the hardest part, the laser part. And he just needs to be able to kind of ascend as quickly as possible. Ideally, you skip a laser cycle or two. It's not always possible, though, and you just never know where those laser cycles are. So Pika Pals is on the final part. He quickly takes out that final computer, and he does finish in 2nd with a time of 31:40. Ramses again had a 27:48. So these are some pretty solid runs that are coming out so far. St. Joe, to the best of my knowledge, is in 3rd place right now, being in the lead of the remaining racers. He is finishing up the World 5 boss, and the last part after that will be the escape sequence. I haven't been able to follow how many cycles he's in. Meanwhile, Alpha 5, I wasn't watching them too carefully, but Alpha 5 has made up some time on Bro Edgeman, and actually to the point where he is actually overtaken Bro Edgeman, whereas Bro Edgeman spent most of the race in front of him. I remember the days back when, 31 minutes ago, when Bro Edgeman was actually in 1st, but unfortunately must have just lost a lot of time, had a bunch of mistakes, and is now in... last of the viewers we're watching. So St. Joe finishes up the boss, just needs to do that final escape sequence. With Alpha 5 finishing up, or like in the middle of 5-1, Alpha 5 actually is really low on health right now. Just about anything will cost him a death, making him start over the stage. So we'll see how he's able to do there. But I'm going to be watching St. Joe here. He does have full health. He just needs to ascend as quickly as possible, unless some kind of secret racer that we don't have on stream right now takes, just kind of catches up to him. He'll probably take that 3rd place. Let's see how he does here. There are just so many cycles throughout World 5 between 5-1, 5-2, and the escape sequence. But Pika Pals is just grappling pretty accurately and just kind of making it up there as quickly as possible. I didn't see what... St. Joe is making it up quickly. I didn't see what ACM or what Pika Pals' final time was on that escape room, but St. Joe is doing pretty well as well.
I believe it was around 40.
Okay. So St. Joe, I think in the final bit there, did lose a bit of time, but is able to finish up and get a final time of 34:05, finishing up in 3rd place. Another pretty solid run, And to my understanding is I think these might be PBs for everyone in the race so far.
It's very possible.
I'm not totally sure about it, but I think so.
I'm flipping through the other streams right now, and I see Jackazam is actually entering the final stage momentarily. Just beat the last boss, so
got it.
They're fighting for a 4th or maybe 5th.
Cool. Yeah, so Alpha 5, and who was that that's finishing up, Boney?
Jackazam.
Okay, so Jackazam and Alpha 5 probably pretty close. It sounds like Jackazam has a bit of a lead over him. We'll see if any mistakes kind of bring him behind. Meanwhile, this is a time where we usually bring in our other racers as well, who wound up taking this. I saw both of these guys streaming, practicing for this run, ACMLM and Jal. ACMLM on the World 4 boss, Jal in 4-2 or 4-3. It's hard to keep track with some of these runs. But Jal in World 4, so not too far behind ACM. Whereas Alpha 5 is coming up on the World 5 boss, and it sounds like Jack is probably somewhere in the final sequence right now. He has not finished yet, but if he messes up and if Alpha 5 does great, then Alpha 5 can secure that 4th place victory. ACMLM is using that those sword slashes to finish off that World 4 boss. I know that a lot of the racers had a really difficult time kind of starting up with this game. It is a very difficult game. I hope that's come across at this point, just how easy it is to die. But it's like, so easy mode in this game actually is only worlds 1 through 3. It cuts off 4, 5, and the escape sequence. So you kind of need to have world 5 or normal mode as the goal of this game. So I'm sure it was a difficult choice, world or easy mode over normal mode, but I think that personally normal mode was the right decision.
Yeah, easy would just be too short, which really is a shame because normal is very unforgiving. So
for sure.
there was a call to make there that was a bit tough, but yeah, I agree. Normal's the way to go.
So we haven't seen Jack finish yet. I know that we heard through the grapevine that he was in the final boss or maybe even the final stage, but now Alpha 5 is actually there. So I'm not sure how we're looking over there.
Yeah, but he might have died. I'm not watching him right now.
But Birdman definitely did take a death. Okay. But Alpha 5 just had a really long boss fight with the level 1 projectiles.
Got it. It looks like Alpha 5 is in the final stage, though. I know we took a couple very early deaths in 1-3, I think it was, where you don't usually see deaths. World 1, the bank, is actually what most people said was the easiest world in this game. So you don't usually see deaths there. I'm not sure. I think he only had 1 death after that. So his deaths in this run were actually in some of the easier places, I would say, and costing him a bit of time there. But he does end up, I mean, we'll see. He hasn't finished yet, but he's getting on top of that computer, finishing it off, and he does finish up in 4th place with a 37.42. That's probably, I would say, right about where his PB is. I'm not sure for sure. He left a race comment. On SRL, you can, after you finish a race, you can kind of leave comments. His comment is, "Worst bank in the harbor of my life."
His late game was good, though. That's
yeah, okay. Yeah. You heard us talking about how Jackazam was doing really well and actually had a bit of a lead over Alpha 5, but he just now finishes. So Alpha 5 finished with a 37.42. Jackazam finishes 17 seconds behind him with a 37.59. So unfortunately, he must have just had the worst World 5 of his life because he lost quite a bit of time and ends up losing a position because of it. He says, "I had such a stupid death on launch site at the end," which is, I think, in World 5. So, yeah, so he lost a bit of time there. Bro Edgeman is finishing up World 5 on that World 5 boss. ACMLM, I bet that ACMLM is really happy with this run. He actually was someone who was very vocal about how hard he felt this game was compared to the previous 2 season games, being Mario 1 and Quake 2, and I know that his best times were maybe even around, oh no, I think he had a like 48 PB coming into this race. So if he can finish up with a low 40s run, I'd say he's probably stoked on that. So really solid job for ACM. I don't want to jinx him just yet. Pro Edge Man heading in. So we have another off-screen finish. Naruto QB finished in 6th place with a 39.26. Bro Edge Man is on that escape sequence, and unless something goes wrong, or unless we have someone else that's just barely in front of him that we don't know about, Bro Edge Man is probably going to clinch that 7th place spot out of, what do we have, 19 racers? Is a bit more at this point. Pony, do you know offhand?
I'm sorry, can you ask me that again?
It's 18. It's 18 racers.
Okay.
So and we're about to see the 7th place finisher. So still quite a few racers in it. Probably, I mean, you never know. Maybe it's people who join the race blind. You never know kind of what people's comfort levels were coming into this. But yeah, so it looks like Bro Edge Man is just taking his time on that final ascent. Lost quite a bit of time, 10-ish seconds or more on this final climb. Oh, loses much more time because he dies. That is why you want to take that so safe, and I'm sure that's why Bro Edge Man was taking it so safe. But he unfortunately did not take it safe enough, kind of ascended at the wrong time, and just wound up taking an unfortunate death. I mean, you just have so many different movement options. When you're grappling in this game, there are different ways that you can grapple. You can hold the up button, which allows you to just sort of slowly ascend. You can hold the R button, which very quickly brings you up on that grapple. And you can kind of swing left and right and ascend that way. You have a bunch of different movement options in this game. It's really cool, and that's why I said before that as you're just getting into this game, you have so many options in terms of how quickly or slowly you want to take running this game. Because, I mean, you can walk around. The first time anyone finishes this game, they're probably just walking around a lot. They probably only slide when they really need to. And similar in grappling, you probably would be grappling very, very slowly. But yeah. So Bro Edge Man finishes in 7th with a 41.37. ACM I didn't see. Must have had a pretty solid boss, because he's now finishing up the escape sequence. Probably going to take that 8th spot. We haven't seen anyone time out on the escape sequence just yet. You never know, because grappling in this game is hard. But yeah, ACM finishes in, is just about to finish. Let's see. Oh, he's running out of time. He just needs to finish it up and get on that final platform. But yeah, he finishes it up with a 42.12. I bet that ACM is pretty... Yeah, he says PB by 6 minutes. I'll take it. Well done for ACM.
It was a good run.
Yeah. Little Mael finishing up 5.1. I'm not sure what his or her PB is, but I think it was in the 40s somewhere, so probably on pace for a pretty solid run by their standards. We'll see. Really good run so far. I'm really happy that, this is a game where it's very easy for just the unfortunate to happen. But overall, I think that most people are probably really happy with their runs. Like we said, most people are probably getting PBs out of this run.
Yeah, I feel like almost every comment was PB.
PB, yeah.
Not alpha.
Yeah, PB, but I'll take it. Or like,
yeah, there you go.
Except for
I think even Ramses, who took first place in the SRL race with a 27, it was, I think, was even surprised that he finished in under 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show how actually difficult this game is.
Yeah. And hopefully, you never know, maybe someone wants to take up in this game and dethrone me. I don't think it would take that many attempts. It's not that great of a record. I rewatched it back, and towards the end, I said something like, "This is nowhere near a run to be happy with." So even then, in the moment, I just didn't think that. I felt that there was a lot of room for improvement. But yeah. definitely a lot of room for improvement. And if anyone that played this game entered this season race feels like they want to play it more, it's definitely a potential world record holder in the midst.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I feel like everyone who learned this game really enjoyed it. They just had a hard time getting into it because it's so difficult, especially in World 2. So I could see a few people sticking with it after the season ends.
Yeah. And even though it is on Game Boy Advanced, you remember you can always play it on GameCube with the Game Boy player. So yeah.
Game Boy Advance games are always so difficult to play.
Oh, yeah, it's true. It's too bad. Cananophone in 5-2 here, and Little Mile in 5-3, which is kind of just the boss of World 5. Finishing that up and heading into the escape sequence. So probably going to be, I mean, again, I don't know who we have off stream, but the current position to be taken right now is 9th place, right after ACMLM. So Little Mile on pace to take that. Yeah, there's just so much to talk about this game. One of the cool things is that there really is not much luck. So I mentioned a couple points throughout the run where luck is a factor, most specifically in terms of when like flamethrowers and laser dudes shoot, because they're always in the same positions, but in terms of when they shoot, that there's some luck to that. But and then there's some frog luck in World 2. There are frogs in World 2, but you can kind of make that safer just by losing a bit of time by finishing off with a sword slash. But other than that, you always know where enemies are going to be in this game. You always know. Oh, and World 2 and World 3 boss. World 2 boss has quite a bit of luck to him, and World 3 boss has a small amount of luck to him. But other than that, you just about know everything that's going to be going on in this game. So if you don't like, I think 2 of my big requirements for running a game, are number 1, not too much luck, and number 2, not too much mashing, or no mashing. And this game has both of those, or like has neither of those things. So it's really, really a great run just for raw execution. It's really cool. You know, I'm noticing that Cananophone just did something in World 4 that Pika Pals did. I'm wondering if there was like secret underground safe strats that people were making together to kind of like, you know what, we only have a week, we won't be able to kind of get to that world record pace, but let's work together to find some safe strats. Boney, there are Discord chats for people that want to kind of practice these games together. Have you seen much cooperation in those Discord chats?
So I've seen a lot more in the last 2 games where there are actually experienced runners to help people learn things. I saw less in this game than I expected. I expected a more teamwork thing, but I think people were really just trying to figure it out on their own. And yeah. I think in retrospect, I think most of the reason for that was they weren't as concerned with learning strats as I expected. They were mostly concerned with just getting familiar enough with the game to the point where they wouldn't die and get hit. So I think if we see an easier game with also like a negligible community, then we might see more cooperation. But I guess we'll see. We'll see next week. In fact, there's your teaser.
Ooh,
nice. Yeah, I definitely encourage anyone, if this game looked fun to you, and I hope it did, I definitely encourage you to just like launch it up and just mess around in stage 1-1 and just like get a sense for if you feel like you would like it. Because I can tell you, when I played easy mode of this game, fortunately for me, I didn't have to jump straight into normal mode. I did start out with easy mode, which has like fewer enemies. The routing through the game, like the keys are in different positions, and so that makes it a bit easier. And just everything does a lot less damage overall. And so it was just a lot easier. I felt like, even in a blind race, it just felt so cool to me. I felt like the controls were doing what I wanted to, and I was swinging where I wanted to, and I was like being a ninja, like it's a very good game to feel like you're a ninja.
Well said.
Yeah, and I think like the mark of a good game is being able to put you in that situation where it feels cool. It feels like you're doing what, like, the things that your character is doing is cool, and that gets kind of passed on to you via the controls. So I think that's as good well as I can say it. But like,
yeah, like it sounds so silly, but I completely agree.
Yeah, when I'm playing this game, I feel like I'm cool. And maybe when you run into spikes, that's not the case. But a lot of the challenges is not taking hits, so that not only do you not take damage, but so that you preserve those power levels. That really is important.
I guess on a similar note to what you were saying, I feel like I'd see a lot of just style in people's gameplay too watching this, just like how they approach grapples and stuff. Like you can see right now, Lever is doing circles around the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed like just in general, different approaches to how people grapple throughout rooms. Like Pika earlier was doing this thing where instead of doing the really, really fast vertical grapples, he was like doing horizontal, just kind of zigzag climbing his way up rooms, for example.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see how people approach grapples and just the style.
Yeah, there really are just so many ways that you can approach this game. It's so cool. You don't even need to, if your concern is that you are going to be taking a lot of hits, and so you just don't even want to route around assuming that you're going to get power-ups. You could do a decent job routing, just because remember, so to break down the damage stuff again, shurikens do 1 damage, and you fire out 3 of them pretty quickly, one after the other, but it's definitely the slowest. The level 2 power-up does 3 damage, but you launch, or 2 damage, but you launch out 3 at the same time. So if you're close, it's kind of like a shotgun thing. If you're close, then you deal 6 damage. The level 3 power-up is really nice. It does 6 damage from afar, and it gets fired out very quickly. But the sword damage, or the sword hit itself, which has no effect on what power level you're at, if you're jumping, does 6 damage as well. So it's like, yeah, having level 3 power is huge, especially when you want to hit enemies from far away. But the sword does as much damage anyway. So if you kind of route out maybe invulnerability so that it's okay for you to be closer to enemies, then you can definitely get a really solid run of this game in, and not be reliant on what your power levels are. I am actually watching chat now at this point, so if anyone has questions about kind of what this game is like, what running it is like, anything like that, then happy to field those. But yeah, I mean, I also just really like how different each one of the worlds of this game feels. Each one has something different about it. World 1, the bank, is kind of like very tutorial based, is pretty friendly to the player, doesn't have any like spikes or major hazards or anything like that. World 2, not the case. It definitely has that kind of warehouse feel. It's very, very tight. Like all the rooms feel very tight. There are flamethrowers looking to burn you, which do tons of damage, and it's just a lot. It's very tight. World 3 starts to really introduce spikes, and starts to get the rooms are quite a bit more empty. And then World 4 has tons of enemies, tons of hazards, and a mix of the different kind of small rooms and open rooms. Especially kind of the starting room of each stage in World 4 tends to be pretty open, as you can kind of see on Argic's screen here when he starts getting up into this open room again. And then each one of the side rooms tends to be a lot tighter. So question goes, how is this game as a casual playthrough? Asks Zek TV. I loved this game as a casual playthrough. I did start it at easy mode, but like I said, even for the very first time I played this game, I felt like I was a ninja. Between the grappling hook, the sword swipes, all the different movement options I had, I just absolutely loved playing it. I think, and I remember quoting that in my SRL comment, that I just felt like a ninja playing this game. And maybe, I think like a week after, one of the entrants and I played normal mode again. We both liked it so much. So it's a really cool casual playthrough.
It was 90, right?
I believe
yeah,
it was.
Let's see. My record is with the new timing, it's very low 22. I have it marked off as a 21:55. It's since been retimed, so it's like a 22:0 something. Definitely beatable. And actually, for the record, I think I did I did do a on-stream run of this game, which I forgot to highlight, and it's only like 10 seconds faster or something like that. But so the record, the recorded record is like 22:0 something with timing on speedrun.com. This is a good question from Thespian Barrage. Do you get to avenge your father or master's death like you do in most ninja games? I forget what the story is in this game. Truthfully, the way I remember it, I think that the main enemy is your father. I might be wrong there. I don't know what it is about ninja games, but just like... So, Libre is going to be coming up on the World 5 boss here, right after this current room he's in. And you can see that after Libre takes out the boss, the ninja teleports to the boss and kind of crouches next to him. I think the idea there, and we don't see the cutscene, but I think the idea there is that he teleports over and finds out that he's his father or brother or former roommate, something like that.
All I know about the lore is that the player's name is Joe Osugi, so I'm really surprised that St. Joe didn't win the race.
So, to answer your question, I guess, Thespian Barrage, you don't get to avenge your father or master's death, but you do get to kill him. I hope that is what you wanted. Let's see here. Chesties, we got your question answered. We're all caught up.
All caught up? Well, if nobody else has any questions for the Ninja 5 Master himself, I think it is about time that we start wrapping up and get to some announcements, specifically some GDQ announcements and the next game number 4. I almost said 3.
I mean, we could just play this game again.
You could just play Ninja 5 another week. I'd be okay with that.
Lucky for you next week. I don't mind.
Nonetheless, some real quick GDQ announcements before we get into the week 4 game reveal. I remembered that time. The game schedule for SGDQ 2018 comes out on the 22nd of this month, April 22nd. And shortly after that, the volunteer schedule will be released on the 30th of April. So later this month, all of the schedules will be released. Other than that, all we really have is the game announcement, right?
Let's do it. Week 4 is coming up. Let's see what it is. We're going 3D now. We got Chameleon Twist, N64 game. It's definitely an easier game than the last few. I think it's time that all the participants get a bit of a break from going mentally insane, learning Quake and Ninja 5 back to back. So we're going to simplify it a little bit. We got this game. It's pretty straightforward. We're actually doing the all levels category for this instead of the any percent, mainly because it's a little bit longer. And it's a very linear, very straightforward game. Some bosses throughout, mostly linear level design. It is a bit difficult to optimize in some parts though, but I think we'll be seeing a much closer race next week, even though most of the runners will be brand new. This game was very volatile. We had people all over the board, but this game will be a bit more straightforward, and I think it'll be very hard to predict who wins next week's race, even if we get to see what everyone's personal bests are. So it's gonna be exciting.
Game's gonna be real fun. Do you have anything else for seasons that you want to announce?
No, I don't think so. But yeah, I guess
join the race.
Yeah, join the race. Definitely.
It's a fun game.
Yeah, we're still early in the season, and it's actually very, very reasonable if people wanted to participate and even try to qualify for top 16 now. We only have 6 weeks left, but we're dropping your 2 worst scores. So if this is your kind of thing, you want to get involved with races in general, we'll be happy to help. You can join the SRL Discord, which is actually linked on the top of the SpeedRunsLive homepage. So click that. Get involved with the races. We'll teach you how to race. We'll help you try to learn the game, and let's make these things even bigger than they are right now. Season 2, join
them.
That's all I got.
Yep. All right. Once again, just real quick before we are out of here, I want to reiterate that the game schedule comes out on the 22nd of April. So just in a couple weeks here, the GDQ 2018 schedule will be out, and the volunteer schedule will be released a little bit after that on the 30th. Okay. Once again, thanks everybody for joining us, and you come back next week. Join the races.
Yeah.
Season 2.
See you next week. Have a good one.
Thanks.
See you guys. Thanks for having me.